Go ahead. She's asking a question. Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you stay categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you...
As you might have guessed, today we're going to look at fake news, specifically the media coverage of fake news and their lies about Trump. Now, Trump likes to say fake news, and I generally don't like when he does it, because oftentimes to him, anything is fake news if he doesn't like what it says. And I don't agree with that definition. However, there are plenty of instances of the news actually being fake news when they lie and, I guess, push these false narratives about Trump. So what I'm going to do in this video is go over a few of perhaps the most common of these and explain why they are fake. So let's just jump right in. The first one I'm going to talk about is the belief or the claim that Trump called some undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants animals. So this is the clip that they generally show to corroborate this claim.
We have people coming into the country or trying to come in. We're stopping a lot of them. But we're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals.
But as you can clearly see, there's not really enough evidence to know what is going on. Like, yeah, on its surface, it kind of looks like maybe that's what Trump is saying, but it's not clear. So let's instead include the previous, 15 seconds so we can actually see what is going on.
There could be an MS-13 gang member I know about. If they don't reach a certain threshold, I cannot tell ICE about them.
Yeah. We have people coming into the country or trying to come in. We're stopping a lot of them. But we're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals.
Now it is evident that he wasn't talking about illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants in general. No, he was talking about MS-13. And MS-13 is a very violent and horrific gang. So I feel like if anyone deserves to be called animals, it would be MS-13. Now, if you still disagree with it, that's fine. You can have your opinion. But he did not call undocumented immigrants animals. That is just factually not true. This is fake news. Even PolitiFact said that this was false. So it is not accurate, and I've still been hearing it today. Now, the second thing I want to look at actually happened during his campaign, and that is when people were claiming that he made fun of a reporter who was disabled. Now, this is the clip that they're talking about.
In a campaign of firsts, Donald Trump appearing to go where no presidential candidate has gone before. The Republican frontrunner at a rally in South Carolina this week appearing to mock a journalist who is disabled.
And now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
That reporter, the New York Times' Serge Kovaleski, who has a chronic condition affecting his joints that limits flexibility in his arms.
Which, knowing that the reporter was disabled, this is actually a pretty bad clip. You can look at that and be like, yeah, Trump obviously did it and he's guilty and we don't have to look at this anymore. But what journalists should actually do is, rather than stop at one thing that confirms their bias, they should, investigate and actually look for the truth rather than just stop once they find something they like. And if they had done that, they would have found these clips, which clearly show Trump using some of the same mannerisms and weird flailing, making fun of other people.
Because, the banks now, they can't do anything. They're run by the regulators. In all fairness to the banks, they're run by the regulators. When you see the president of the bank, I mentioned the word regulator. These guys come in, they run the banks. And I watched a general recently on television, and they said to him, what do you think about ISIS? Oh, ISIS is very tough. And I'm saying, first of all, why is a general on television? I don't want my generals on television.
I heard Ted's a good debater. I said, he is a good debater, but he can't talk, okay? Bad talker. He's a good debater, bad talker. So he's over here. They asked him about waterboarding. They said, Senator Cruz, what do you think of waterboarding? I don't want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about waterboarding because too controversial. And I'm saying to myself, they're chopping off heads. He doesn't want to talk about waterboarding.
So with all of that information, it is safe to say that President Trump did not mock this reporter because of his disability. I don't know what Trump is trying to do when he does all that weird flailing stuff. I don't understand it, but it's his character. When he makes fun of someone, that's what he has done in the past. So it's not fair or accurate to isolate this one time and say that he was making fun of a reporter because of his disability, because that is not true and it is not accurate. Now, before we jump into the next one, if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe and also hit the notification bell, because apparently if you don't do that, you won't really be informed about my videos and you might miss something. And that would be horrible, because my videos are great, let's be honest here. So make sure you do that and get my sources down below as well. Now, this one has been making the rounds recently because of Trump's tweets about Baltimore. Now, I made a video about that previously. It'll be linked up here if you want to check it out. But the basic idea is that he said Baltimore was rat infested and people said he was racist. And the ideology basically goes like this. So this is from The Guardian, where it said, whenever Trump says infested, we know he's talking about people of color. So apparently saying infested or infestation automatically refers to people of color, and it means that you are racist. So that's the belief going on here, and that's the attack that is being used. Now, there is a website that has archived and documented Trump's tweets since before he was president, and there are only 7 or 8 cases where he said infested or infestation. Out of those cases, only 2 of them are really even about people or a group of people. Who are they about, you might ask? Well, they are about MS-13, as you might have guessed. So yes, it is true that he referred to a group of people as an infestation, but that was about MS-13, which again, if you're going to say anyone is an infestation, I feel like MS-13 is the right group to pick because they are a horrendous gang. So I don't really see the problem with that. Now, they will then say that every time he uses infestation, he's talking about a location that is largely minority. For example, Baltimore has a large minority population, and he said it was rat infested. And both of those things can be true at the same time. It doesn't mean that his tweets or his comments are racist. I don't think that is an accurate claim. Just because saying something is infested with rats or crime or whatsoever, and it happens to be a minority area, that doesn't mean that you pointing that out is racist. Because again, he wasn't referring to people. He was referring to the acts that are happening there, which are in fact horrendous and an infestation. That being said, there was a time where he referred to, as we see here, New Hampshire as, quote, drug-infested den. This comes from the root where they were going through several of the things he said when he talked about infestations, and they were trying to prove that they were all racist, and they used this as an example, because after talking about New Hampshire, he then pivots and talks about the drugs that are going to New Hampshire from Mexico. So first off, New Hampshire, in case you didn't know, is 70% white. So again, out of the, 7 times that he has been quoted as saying infestation or something of that nature, one of those times was to New Hampshire, which is largely white. So that kind of defeats the narrative that it was a racist talking point. Now, like I said, the root tries to say him talking about Mexico, about the drugs coming from there, is racist, but I don't think it is because it is factually accurate. The Washington Examiner said that up to 99.8% of all the illegal drugs in the United States come up from Mexico. And if you don't like that, the CPB has shown that basically all of the drugs that are coming into the United States illegally are in fact coming from Mexico. It's not even close. So I don't think that it's really wrong to point that out, which is what he was doing. Trump saying something you do not like that is in fact factually accurate doesn't make it a racist thing. Now, for the last one, I'm going to go over something that we've probably all heard about a lot of, and that is Charlottesville. So just to kind of give you an understanding of what happened in Charlottesville, in case you don't remember, is that they were debating or talking about taking down a Robert E. Lee statue. And so a large group of alt-righters, including neo-Nazis and white supremacists, decided to host a march and to protest taking down of the statue. They were met by Antifa and other members of the left. And they clashed and they fought, and overall it was just not a good thing. Now this is the clip that everyone is taking about Trump to talk about Charlottesville.
It's on both sides, sir. You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Now, admittedly, that's not a very good clip because as you can clearly see here, those on the alt-right were neo-Nazis and white supremacists, and they were not fine people. You won't find fine people who are white supremacists. It just doesn't work that way. So, somewhat understandably, people were upset about him saying that. However, they stopped it right there and didn't continue watching or chose to not continue showing what happened in that press conference. So after a 15, maybe 20-second tangent talking about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson statues, this is then what Trump said.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
So it's clear that when Trump said very fine people, he was not, and I repeat, was not talking about the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis or the KKK, because he condemned them. He said that specifically. So why would you call someone a very fine person and then in the next breath condemn them? That doesn't make sense. Trump was not referring to them. Let's watch one more clip to try and see what Trump was talking about or who he was talking about.
I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No,
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones.
Basically, according to Trump, you had the alt-right group, you had the group on the left, and you had some group that was kind of in the middle who were upset that the statue was getting taken down, but apparently were peacefully protesting. Now, there isn't really any evidence to support that. I know that there are some people on the right who are trying to push that narrative that there was some third peaceful group, but I have not found the evidence to support that. I don't think it's true. I think it's more accurate you had the alt-right, you had the left, and then they were the ones fighting. And it's pretty easy to think about why. Just imagine you were going to be a part of a peaceful protesting group, and then you see these individuals here who were literally saying Jews will not replace us. If you were a peaceful protester, you would not align yourself in any way with these individuals, and you wouldn't be at that location. That doesn't make any sense. So I don't think it's accurate to say that there were three different groups. Trump, in my view, is wrong about this. However, that is not the same thing as saying that he called white supremacists very fine people, which is what the media has been pushing since this happened 2 years ago. That is not accurate. It is a false representation of what he said. You can criticize him by saying that perhaps he downplayed the violence initiated by the alt-right, but again, that's still not the same thing as saying that he called white supremacists and neo-Nazis very fine people, because he certainly did not. He condemned them outright. To cement this, here is a statement that was put out by the Trump administration a few days after, and it said specifically, KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. So he did not call them very fine people, he condemned them outright, and then he called them repugnant and hate groups and criminals and thugs. So again, it is not accurate to say that Trump was in some way calling them good people. Maybe you could argue he was downplaying the violence they initiated, and I think that's a fair point, but that is still not the same thing as praising someone. Those are two very distinct things. And the media ran with Trump was praising the white supremacists, which did not happen. Now, before I close, I would like to thank this YouTuber, Carlos Gomez, because about a week ago, he gave me a shout out in one of his videos that I wasn't really familiar with when I started getting people coming to my videos and commenting. So I do appreciate that, Carlos. If you're watching this, thank you. And if you came from Carlos's channel because he gave me a shout out, I hope you appreciate the content that I've been giving. Carlos has a friend. His friend is CJ. But CJ is starving and has not been given Chick-fil-A. You see, according to CJ, Carlos said that once he got 100 subscribers, he would take CJ to Chick-fil-A. But that hasn't happened. Carlos is refusing to give his friend some Chick-fil-A. And that is horrible. That cannot stand. So, if you have the time and if you're so inclined, I will put a link to Carlos's channel down below. Feel free to check it out. This is not me endorsing everything he does, but again, if you have time, go ahead and check it out. And maybe you can help feed a CJ some Chick-fil-A. What did you think about these media stories? Do you still see them being propagated and pushed forward by the media or by your friends? Did you learn anything new here? I hope so. Let me know down below. And if you can think of anything I may have missed, go ahead and let me know that as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.